Okay. Maseches Bava Metzia Daf Lamed Zayin Amud Beis. Yes, definitely introductions are in place, especially since yesterday, be quiet everyone, thank you. Since Alan stumped me yesterday with his very good question. And today I have an answer for your question, a detailed answer, and that is, we discussed in the Mishnah a few cases. Actually, only one case is in our chart of today. This case is the case of the Mishnah. What is the case over here? If a person is approached by two people, they don't know if their fathers, they don't know what happened in the father's accounts, right? They don't know what happens if their fathers deposited or did not deposit. And the person says, I know the father of one of you deposited money by me, and I don't know which one, right? So now we said it's his fault for not keeping track and taking down the name of the depositor. And therefore, he doesn't know which one, and they don't know which one. Lotzes idei shamayim, in order to be extra good in Hashem's eyes, shouldn't punish you in shamayim. He has to give out of his own money, he has to fork out money and actually give 100 to Reuven, 100 to Shimon, to the supposed one. And we don't say that you keep the money to yourself, and we don't apply here moment that the money stays by the original, by its owner, which is definitely the shomer. That's what we said yesterday. Then was the seifa. The seifa does not exactly appear in this chart. In the seifa, because this chart is only about when this chart is when it's not when the shomer should have known better. The shomer should have taken records, tracks, and he didn't. What happens in the seifa? The seifa was the case in which both people come to poor Mr. Shomer. They deposited in a way that showed mutual confidence, because they deposited one in front of the other, which is the same as placing everything in one envelope. They, as if they told him verbally, it doesn't matter who did the 200, the 100. We trust everybody to remember who's the one who deposited the 200 and who deposited 100. And guess what? After some time, they both come to him and both say, I'm the one who deposited the 200. And the other one, is the liar and who only deposited 100. So somebody's lying. Yeah, maybe it's a mistake, but we assume it's a lie. And then what do we say? Then he does not have to give anything to anybody, not even lotzes b'dei shamayim. What should he do? According to Tanakama, he gives 100 to Reuven, 100 to Shimon. The third note of 100, which is the bone of contention, which is the question here, stays ad shiur. This is what we discussed right yesterday. Now, we still have to talk about Rabi Tarfon and Rabi Akiva. And here, Rabbi Rubinstein asked the question, what about Shavua? We seem to be big fans of Shavuos, right, left, and center, especially in Bava Metzia. Shavuos every other word. Where's Shavua over here? I'm not sure exactly how to locate your question. And then I thought, Shavuos. So let's think. The ones who are, and actually, you know where I looked? The best parish in the world, Lanius Daiti, is a sefer called Shulchan Aruch. No pilpulim, no fancy words. It's just the halacha. When you read the halacha, you understand chat in the Gemara. Says the Shulchan Aruch, it's really Rambam. Tur Shulchan Aruch says as the person, if you look at who's the plaintiff and who's the nitba, who's the accused, it's really the mafkid, the two mafkidim, right? The two depositors. Each one is blaming the banker, so to speak, the shomer. It's mine. Give me what belongs to me, right? Usually, let's go slow, nice and slow. Usually, not always, who is the person who's causing the other one to be nishba? The tovea to the nitba, the plaintiff to the accused. Yeah, I claim, let's say that you owe me money, and then it's going to be miktzah, say dechot, you take the shvua. In this case, the shomer cannot take shvua because he says, I don't know. My fault or not my fault, I can't be nishba on something I don't know. I would like to say that's your answer, Ellen, but then I thought not true, because what happens when a person cannot take shvua? What do? We thought recently, very good, the rabbi knows. We switch it over. This icon with two arrows like that, right? Yeah, very good. That's what happens. That's what should be happening here, is that both Reuven and Shimon should take shvua, right? One of them is lying, but that's his fault, and then take the money. We don't say that because they were the clumsy ones. Because it's their fault, we don't say they should take shvua and retrieve the money from him. It's just, to use the simple word in Hebrew, ze lo fair. It's not fair. Because they were clumsy, one of them is lying or mistaken. Here, the fault is, no, the customer is not always right. That they deposit in a way which sort of projected the idea that everything's fine and we'll all trust each other, so you don't really have to write our names. Yeah, and then they lie and they get confused. It's not his fault. So what do you want? Shvu and then take it from him? Wrong. However, listen to this. However, you are right. What would be, as you guys also, you both said it, what would be if both of them were mafkedit and one was 5 minutes after the other, and let's say the Afkodas were nice, Masud, and a closed envelope. Shh, I'm the one who's giving you the 200 shekels, not him. I'm the one who's giving you the 100. If things are clear, nice and Masudar, like they should be in a bank today, they should know who deposited in a very Masudar way, in such a way, and then he got confused, who, the Shomer, then you're right. Then you're right. Says the Shulchan Aruch, each one should take a shvua and take the extra money from him because it's his fault. It's his fault. And really, even bidei Adam, yeah, we pass him like Rabi Akiva, okay, as we're going to go to, yeah, when we know that it is his fault, either he's a thief or he's a clumsy banker that they deposited the right to, it's his fault, the mix up over here, then enachinami. Then we say he should give each one 100, and only upon their shvua they receive it as means of security. Sometimes shvua, as we said in Perek Rishon, I mean, he may be lying, but it's like means of security. It's like, we take a shvua. You were willing to take a shvua, take the money. Okay, so there's your answer. Nice. Now, okay, so now what else did we say yesterday? There's the machlokes Rabi Tarfon and Rabi Akiva, which does not interfere with our Mishnah. We explained the Mishnah can go well with both Rabi Tarfon and Rabi Akiva. Rabi Tarfon and Rabi Akiva's story, yeah, let's give it another color. That is the case over here. What would be if it's Bali Veshema, which means, let's say 5 people were stolen from, and each one says claims with all honesty, possibly with a shvua. I know you stole from me. And the person says, I don't know if I stole from you or from the other 4. There were 5 of you. I don't know which one it was with a black suit and the black hat that I stole from. And each one says, I'm certain it was from me. And he says, maybe you, maybe others, maybe kept quiet, right? So then says Rabbi Akiva, you have to pay each one separately. Boy, that's expensive. Each one you have to give let's say it's 100 shekel at stake, yeah? And Rabi Tarfon says, no, you're potter, and you don't have to give more than 1. You give it to all 5 and you run away. That's what we think now. But that does not interfere with our Mishnah, because our Mishnah never spoke about it. Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Tarfon speak in Bidei Odom. Yeah, Bedine Odom, not Bidei Odom, Bedine Odom, sorry. Bedine Odom. Yeah. But the letter of the law, says Rabbi Tarfon, but the letter of the law, you're not interested in doing the extra bit? You stole 100, they don't know which one, they should go jump and you give 100 to all of them, and then we'll see exactly what happens. That's going to be the next thing. If it want to be Lotzis Bidei Shamayim, if it is Bar Veshema and Bidei Shamayim, let's say they know that you stole and you don't know, and you want to be Yoitze and be nice in the eyes of Hashem and have a nicer place in the world to come, then you must give it back according to both Rabi Tarfon and Rabi Akiva. Okay? It's not that complicated, and we're going to go again and again, okay, into this chart once and again. Okay, yes, now it's time to begin, but we have some questions before we start this year. Yeah. A technical question. Omar Mar, I just saw something fascinating yesterday after being in learning for 2 years already. Yeah, I saw Omar Mar always means like anonymous Amora. And then I saw yesterday a sefer, Klolei Talmud, the rules of the Talmud from not from today. And it says usually Omar Mar means Rav. The anonymous narrator of the Talmud, yeah, Omar Mar is Rav. Very interesting. Yeah, the big master came from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel. Interesting. I don't know. Mar, maybe it's the master. Rav was like the first Amoyer with Shmuel. Rav is like Ketana. Maybe Mar he's the Mar. He's the master. He's the whatever. Omama.
To be after
Omama. Meniach gzel b'neim u'mistalik. Yeah. What did we say according to Rabi Tarfon, the Tana? It's enough if it's 5 people who all fight for the same piece of chicken. I mean, for the same amount of money. And the person says, listen, I admit that it was one of you, but not more than one. You put the 100 that they fight, yeah, between them, and you run away. We can imagine it as like some funny cartoon thing. You put it and you run, let them fight it out. Frag the Gemara, is that so? Is that the menschlich way of doing it? B'shakli lakulu v'azli, they all take it and they go away. Do they all divide the 100? Each one gets a fifth, which means what? Which means that the real owner would lose, only get a fifth. Is that a normal way of doing it? Maybe you'll say yes, maybe. Says the Gemara, no. I'll prove it to you that it's not the proper way of doing it. Where will I prove it to you? Go back to the second parak of Bava Metzia. From there, we'll prove that it's wrong to do it this way, to just put it and run away. How do you know? The Omar Rabi Abba bar Zav, the Omar Rav. Kol sofek hinuach. Remember sofek hinuach? Sometimes an item is placed somewhere in a way that you know that it's munach, that he means to go back and take it back. A stender in the shul. Yeah, I leave it there and I want it to stay there. Usually doesn't. Yeah, but that's what's supposed to be. Or sofek hinuach means, right? Let's say you left those chicks, those roosters near the fence, and it's not so sure if the person placed it there in order to come back or lost it. It's a sofek. Lechatchila lo yitol. Lechatchila, don't take it. Why? There is no siman. We're doing chazara now. There's no siman. So if you take it away from him, there's no way of him retrieving it back, right? And maybe, at least maybe, he'll come back and take it. But if you take it from there, that mistama, he'll never come back to take it. However, we say the im notal. Let's say you did take it. You come to the rabbi ex post facto, and you say, "Oh, Rabbi, I took those chickens, but I shouldn't have to. Now it's stuck with me, and there is no siman, and the guy may never ever come." Now, look what happens. Lo yachzir. What do you mean lo yachzir? Don't give it back. Don't give it back to who? Explains Rashi like this. Let's say I got a friendly knock on the door, and somebody comes and tells me, "Oh, you found this chicken behind the somewhere. Did you find the chickens there? They're mine." I would be very happy to get the headache off my head, yeah, and just give it to him and say, "Listen, these chickens are not mine. I'm just the guard, right? I'm the shomer." He claims that's his. Maybe it's a bori v'shema. He knows it's his and I don't. I'll give it to him and done with the headache. Says the Gemara, lo yachzir. Why not? We say keep those chickens still forever. What do you mean forever? Maybe one time the real owner will come, says Rashi, a genius thing. And although there's no siman, maybe he'll have edim that he placed it there. Edim are better than simonim, right? We always said that. So because there's an small chance that the real owner may come to retrieve it with edim, and that may happen with 2 people, white beards and big kippot, yeah. And what? And they will say, yeah, we saw Shlumalovsky that he put the Ternagolim over there where you found them. Because of that off chance, you should keep those chickens for life. And whatever, you may change them for money. What do we see from here? That the approach of the Torah is not to take the, being very general now, not to take the quick solution. Somebody claimed it, I better give it to him and finish with a headache. Maybe it's really his. We don't say that. We say, no, you have to keep it by you, keep it in your possession, and make sure that only once you know 100% who's the owner, then you give it back to him. Back to us. Why are you telling me that this person who knows that he does have, and it should be burning in his pocket in his bed conscious, he stole or maybe got the wrong kind of deposit from one of 5 people, he doesn't know which one to give it back to, right? But Dine Odom, what do we say? Put it in between all 5 and run away? What do you mean? Very good chances that the real victim will not be the one to catch the piece of kugel at the end of the kiddush. Yeah, maybe he won't be the one with a big fist, or you want to divide it between all 5. It's also unfair. Answers the Gemara, no. It does not mean that you put it there and you make a quick run. It doesn't mean that. Amarav Safra ve'yaniach. What do you mean ve'yaniach? It has to be a very nice, very organized legal process. Says Rashi, what you have to do is as follows. You have to take it to Beis Din. It's machlokes rishonim. Rashi says you take it to Beis Din and you say, I stole Yeah, and not that I want to do the super duper tshuva bidei shomayim. I want to do the minimum thing. I don't have money for it. I have to buy feelings for my kid. I'm not into the best of the best, which even Rabi Tarfon says to give all 5 people. I can't afford it. What do I do based in? Based in say put it actually over Elio, which means based in are aware of that sum that's being owed by him to one of 5. Now they keep it in the records, and then he takes it back home and deposits it by himself somewhere, knowing that once we'll find out who the real Nignav was, once we were managed to prove Adim, maybe CCTV, maybe some other riots, maybe the other, whatever that may be, Shuda the Daini, whatever the proof is, once it's properly proven, and I'm not joking, the Gemara says, Achav Eliyahu Novi will answer all the questions. Hopefully, Mashiach will come tomorrow. Eliyahu will come, and he'll answer. Only once I know who is the real owner, then I'll take it out of my system and give it to him. But we don't just throw money and say, I'm okay with it, which sometimes people tend to do. That's what the Gemara answers. So we just defined now very well what does it mean, Munachat Shav Eliyahu. Omer le Abai Wiki, yeah, okay. Back to Gemara. Omer le Abai le Rove. Abai now asked Rove. מי אומר רבי עקיבא לא זו דרך מוציאוס מידי עבירו עד שישלם גזל לכל אחד ואחד? What did Rabbi Akiva say? Rabbi Akiva said, בדיני אדם, not just בדיני שמיים. It's not a way to get out of Avera until you pay each and every one from your own pocket. Yes, we know you only stole 100 from one person, but because we have a suffix which one of the 5 it was, then you have to pay 500, one to each one. Alma, that is to say, what seems to be Rabbi Akiva's hashkafa, in case of a suffix, whether, again, the suffix here, as I stressed yesterday, is not if he owes money, it's who to he owes money. Yeah, if I have a suffix whether you owe money or not, I have no varaya. But misafek of who does he owe money to, we take out money to both A and B, right? A, B, C, D, and E. And we do not follow the famous Talmudic dogma of what? Of just keep the money where it is b'chazaka. V'lamini, now we have a question. I was thinking making a chart. I think a chart is miutar. V'lamini, question from Bava Metzia Kufnun Ches Amud Beis. It says in the Mishnah of Bava Metzia Kufnun Ches Amud Beis. And we're going back to the old veteran people here. Remember what? You remember the halachas of, remember learning about the halachas of Yerusha, of inheritance, right? What happens when there is a terrible, tragic accident, chas Shalom, and what happens next? 2 people died, and we don't know who died first. And that makes a heck of a lot of a difference regarding who's going to inherit the money. Let's look at the case. Nofal abais olav al imoi. Yeah, a mother and a son. There was lo aleinu and a filah of bait. The house collapsed, imploded, and collapsed over 2 people because it was designed by an Israeli engineer. Very nice. And what? And now the house collapsed. And you have a lot to say about it. Please, hold yourself back. And now the house, lo aleinu, it's very tragic, fell on the mother and the son. So now there are 2 people who fight over here. Before we explain the fight that ensues and that happens now between 2 groups of heirs, the story is as follows. That woman was rich, or I don't know if she was rich, but she had money. This lady had her own money, nothing to do with her husband or his family or anybody else. Top-notch lawyer, whatever she was, yeah, she has her own money. Okay, and her son has his own money too. The 2 adults with their own money. Okay, now a son inherits his mother, right? Okay, but not the other way around. The mother does not inherit her son. But that's not even so relevant, but the son does inherit his mother. Now, there are 2 groups of people. There are 2 people standing in court now claiming I'm the only Yerush of her money. His money, I'm avoiding questions now. His money is not a debate. Please leave that on the side. Yeah, there's enough here on the cholent. Focus on her money. Who does her money go to? Yeah. Well, there is her family, her father. She has a surviving father, or maybe her uncle. Her parents are a family that are not blood relatives of who? Of the son. The son, they're very blood. He's his grandson, but it doesn't make a difference. They are her heirs. And there's another group of people. His brother, the one who's standing against her father, is the dead son's brother from a different father, who's not related to the woman. Yeah, get it? Okay, it's her father from her family, and there are people from his family of the son who are not connected to her. His brother from a different father. She divorced. You remember? Okay, no, very nice. Look at that. Yosha ben Oimim. Let's continue. Let's beautiful case. Yosha ben, the heirs of the son, they say, Ha'em meisa rishoino. We get her money. She died first. Once she died 2.5 seconds before him, how do they know? It's a good question if they know, but that's what they claim. She died 2.5 seconds before him. She died, and her 15 million in the bank went in those 2.5 seconds. What happened to him? He was alive when she was dead. That's called inheriting. So she inherited to him. We are his heirs. You guys, her relatives, too late, because the son gets from the mother before her father gets from her. Yeah. I'm the lawyer of the brother, and I say my brother inherited from his mother because she died first. The money went from the mother to her son who died second. I'm his heir, and that's it. You guys belong to her family, yeah, but she died too early. He inherited her before he came to the picture. He's the inheritor. The son is the first one to inherit before anybody else. Now the father of the mother or her uncle or her family, they say, no, the son died first. So what? Because the son died first, and just to the cream and the cake, also he left no children, to make it simple, and no other heirs from her side, right? And they say the son died first, and therefore he died. What happens to his money? You can take it. Her money went to us, because when she was dead, he was already dead before her. So she does not bequeath to a dead person. She bequeathed to us. We are the ones who inherited from her. That's the case. What do we say? A big suffix. Now says the Gemara, the Mishnah says, Elu ve'elu, both B'Shamai and B'Hillel, which normally argue in that perek, and normally over there, B'Shamai B'Hillel, in all kinds of other cases of who fell before who, B'Shamai tend to say you split, because you don't know what's going on. There's no CCTV in the whole Twin Towers collapsed, right? We don't know who died in the third floor, the fourth floor, all the same, all one thing. The Shammai say they should always split half-half, and B'Hillel say the money should stay in the chazaka where it originally was, whatever that means. The money stays muchzak, but the original owner, which is also a question who's the original owner. Says the Mishnah, the Mishnah says that in that case, the suffix is so, how do you say, impossible to resolve. Both B'Shamai and B'Hillel would agree, there's no way to know who died first, split. You can say for sure, you're not sure. Split the goods, half to the father of the woman as an heir, and half to the brother of the son as his heir. So Rabi Akiva, Dafka Rabi Akiva is in the hot seat now. We're not questioning Rabi Akiva's opinion. Says Rabi Akiva, Moide ani bezu, I agree, I admit, even though according to Rashi, Rabi Akiva belonged to B'Shamai, the big chiddush, just as argues. Here I agree to B'Hillel, shenechosim b'chizkoson. In other words, basically what Rabi Akiva says is, B'Shamai and B'Hillel are choilek, they are choilek, yes, they argue, and I side with B'Hillel that the money should stay with the original owner. Everyone's going to ask who's the original owner, the mother or the son. It's a machloikas over there in Bava Basra, and we're not going down there. Whether the chazaka is a shevet, the mother belongs to her tribe where she came from, or it's muchzak by the son, because the son is always the first there. Lo mashane. Bekitzer, one line, by the way, nice line for everybody here who came from Chul, which is everybody here in the room except for me, and that is the only source in the Gemara there. The Gemara there says, the Avira de Arad Yisrael Machkim, the heir of Eretz Yisrael makes you smarter. Because there's Machlokas there, Amoraim, who's the money muchzak by? One Amoira, I think Ilfa, he moved from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael. Upon moving to Eretz Yisrael, he changed his mind and he agreed to the other party. And he said, now I came to Eretz Yisrael, my Torah is better. Because the heir here makes you wiser, more Torah-dik. Yeah, the more Kaddish in Eretz Yisrael than in America. No, I'm joking. And what? And therefore, over here, I get better hashkafa and I know the local. That's just a side thing. In any event, let's siphon one line from the whole story. What did Rabi Akiva say? Put the money by the chazaka of the original owner and don't split. Whoever the original owner is, the mother or the son, but you keep money in the status quo where it always used to be. So that's not like our Rabi Akiva. Our Rabi Akiva over here says, no, then in the case of one guy who stole from 5 people, what do we say? 1 from 5, give minadin. not to be nice and be to Hashem and learn Musar. No, you have to give Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, and Zvulun. You have to give all five. That's what we say, right? And you don't keep the money by the Ganev. You make him take out money. And over there he says, no, you keep money by one party, which let's say is the mother, Nagid, and you don't give the money. Rabbi Akiva seems to contradict himself. Omerle, those of you who look at the chart can get the answer already. I already gave it to you. Look at the chart. I want to ask you, those people who say, no, the mother died first, and the other one says, no, the son died first, are they certain about it? Can they be made? They all think the collapse was minutes when people die in the collapse, unless they're trapped inside. So therefore, that's the answer. Omer Le, he answered, Hosam Shema v'Shema. Over there, it's a Shema v'Shema. Both parties don't know what they're talking about. Each one comes and says, hey, maybe the mother died first. Don't take out my money because maybe my daughter died first. No, maybe my brother died first. You don't know. You're not coming bibori. Your time is a maybe. When it's a Shema v'Shema, even according to Rabi Akiva, you are potu. Even Bedine Odom, no questions. 1 second, please. Gozel, echad michamisha. But when one guy stole out of 5 people, bori v'Shema. That's the beautiful checker over here. When it's a bori v'Shema, when 5 people come and they say, I know for sure you stole from me. I could feel your hand in my pocket, that little chamishi when you're talking about. And it's, that's Rabi Tarfon is laughing like you. But Rabi Akiva's chiddush is they will look at each one separately. It's a chiddush, but that's Rabi Akiva views it. Rabi Akiva says it's 5 court cases. Don't be mevalbel. Reuven against Ganev, Shimon against Ganev, and therefore, what you're saying is right, Rabi Tarfon. He says, I look at each one separately. Each one is a bori, and you're maybe you don't know, so you have to pay. That's how Rabi Akiva looks at it. The Sheikh Shema v'Shema, even Bedine Adam, you are exempt from giving anything, and you leave the money where it is. Yes, you can get them. Right. Frag the Gemara now about our Mishnah. Masnisin the Hocho. Look at the Mishnah. Look at our Mishnah and see if it fits what you just said. Yeah, the person told 2 people in the case of the Mishnah, I stole, that's the very, very first case of the Mishnah, I stole 2 from one of you 2 money. The Shema v'Shema. It's a Shema v'Shema. Why is it a Shema v'Shema? Soon we're going to show that our Mishnah, as we already said before, our Mishnah is what? They don't know. He comes to them and they don't know that he stole from them. And they're like, oh, that's so nice of you. You're such an honest guy. So maybe he stole from me. They didn't take him to Beis Din. He initiated it. They're a Shema. They don't know what's going on. They don't know what's flying. They didn't even realize they were stolen from. And he's also a Shema because he didn't know if he stole from Uber and Shimon. There are question marks on both sides. And yet, even though it's a Shema v'Shema, Biktani, and nevertheless it says in the Mishnah, and still it says you have to give each one money. You say that he does have to fork out money from his own pocket, even though it's a maybe and a maybe. How can you answer that? You should not answer it already. Beautiful. The rabbi answered already. Lots of Svidei Shamayim. Very nice. The Gemara doesn't know it yet. This chart is for spoiled children to already have everything in advance. But the Gemara is in the process of getting it. Very good. Very good. Correct the Gemara, 2 questions. First of all, Rabbi Akiva, how do you know our Mishnah follows Rabbi Akiva? Tosfos here has a very big claim on the Gemara. What do you mean, how do you know it's Rabbi Akiva? And if it's Rabi Tarfon, even less likely. Rabbi Tarfon is bichlal against taking money from the thief so much. Well, if we have time, we're going to read this Tosfos. But the Gemara is now asking a general question. You're claiming, how come you tell me Rabbi Akiva says that in the case of Shema v'Shema, you don't have to give each one? The Mishnah says, and it's Rabbi Akiva, that you do have to give each one, even in a maybe. Says the Gemara, how do you know our Mishnah follows Rabbi Akiva? Well, that's a general question. How you're asking from Rabbi Akiva to a Mishnah, assuming the Mishnah is Rabbi Akiva. Maybe the Mishnah is somebody else. Answers the Gemara, no. I'll tell you how I know that our Mishnah follows Rabbi Akiva. The Ktani Alo Deahi. It says on the Mishnah, not our Mishnah, the Mishnah over there of Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Tarfon. There are 2 Mishnahs here, my friend. This is our Mishnah in Bava Metzia and Zayin, and that's the Mishnah of Tarfon and Rabbi Akiva at the end of Yevomis. And in Bava Kamakuv Gimel. It says on that Mishnah where Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Tarfon had their star moment when they actually argued, there's an additional words on that Mishnah. Moed Rabbi Tarfon admits to who? To Rabbi Akiva, of course. He admits to him, when a person comes clean, wants to do teshuva, and says, I am the one who wants to give you back, and I stole from one of you, I don't know which one I stole from, then, says Rabi Tarfon, you have to give both Reuven and Shimon. Leman Moide, who is he admitting to? To who? To the Ramchal. Who is he admitting to? Rabi Akiva Bar Plukte. Of course it's to Rabi Akiva. So you see that Rabi Akiva and Rabi Tarfon both say, from some odd reason, that you do have to pay both victims in case of doubt, Shema v'Shema. Not what you're saying. Yeah? Whatever. Yeah? We don't know this checker yet. This checker is still with a veil on it. We don't know it yet. Yeah? Wait a second. Another question in order to really ask your question, you have to have another factor, another variable. How do you know that our Mishnah spoke in a Shema v'Shema? Because Rabbi Tachtel is giving you all these descriptions of a guy with teary eyes. How do you know? How do you know that the Mishnah is really a guy who is a Shema v'Shema? Maybe the people in the beginning of the Mishnah are two tough people who are very bully. They come with their big fat lawyers and turn Rabbani and they claim and they sue him in Beis Din. How do you know? Right? And then, and then you don't have a question, because then, of course, if it's Bori v'Shema, of course, according to Akiva, you have to give each one. Right? The only question is why B'Shema v'Shema, our Mishnah said. How do you know the Mishnah speaks about Shema v'Shema? Yeah, maybe it's a Bori v'Shema. They really know what they're talking about. They claim forcefully and fiercely, and that's why you have to give each one. Yeah. That's still called Bori. That question was asked before. Lemaisi, if we look at each one, it's a separate claim. Reuven against Ganav, Shimon against Ganav. Each one alone is the Bori. Now, let's first get to the answer, and then I'll hear more questions. Says the Gemara, there are two reasons why I think our Mishnah talks about a case where there was no claim, no tvia from the side of the two people. Chada, first of all, the Lo Ktani Tovi Noisa. He just doesn't say it. Doesn't say in the Mishnah that we're Tovea. You read the Mishnah says, Omar L'Shnaim, yeah? The first scenario in the comics, in the movie, is what? He came and he told two people, I stole. It doesn't sound like they were Tovea and then he admitted as a response to them. The first scenario in the film here is him coming, yes, maybe with tears in his eyes, to what? And he starts coming clean. The Oid, and another better proof, Hatani Rabi Chia, as we saw recently, Rabi Chia and Rabbi Oishia were the masters of the Braisos, and the Braisos many times complete and complement the Mishnah. Rabbi Chia explains our Mishnah, Ze Omer Eini Yodea, outright. One person says, I don't know. He's not claiming, meaning one Tevea is really not, I don't know. Ze Omer Eini Yodea. Yeah? And therefore, it says, Mefurish, that both parties who are Tovea are not Tovea. He says, you came, not you. The Ganev came and said, I stole from one of you. And then both said, maybe for me, maybe for me. And he also says maybe. The whole story is one big maybe. And yet we say that according to Rabbi Akiva, who's also the master of our Mishnah, by the way, fits both Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Tarfon. And by the way, the only case of the Mishnah is this, out of all cases. And they both agree to this case. Why do we say that according to Rabbi Akiva, in case of both of them, everybody besofik, you still have to pay? That's when he's bolotz bidei shomayim. That's this checker. If it's a Shema v'Shema, that's this checker. Sorry. If it's a Bori v'Shema or Shema v'Shema, both of them. Yeah, both of them. You always chayv lotz bidei shomayim, Bori v'Shema, or even Shema v'Shema, lefi everyone, you have to give both. By both, bidei shamayim, across the board, you have to, and this is the ratio of our Mishnah. The ratio of the Mishnah is the person who really, it was the Shema v'Shema, and it was not his fault. He didn't have to keep the records. The sefer of our Mishnah, by the way, just to add, the sefer of the Mishnah is not in this chart. What's the sefer of the Mishnah? Lu Yitzir, that it is his fault, right? Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. This is when he should have kept the records. If it's your fault, you should have kept records. That's a Mishnah. Yeah, that's what I meant. Sorry. When you should have kept the records, in other words, gave it to you in a normal way, either you're a thief or you're a clumsy shomer. But gadol, it's your fault. Then what? Bidei shamayim, you always have to give both sides, even if they're Shema v'Shema, right? Clear. Now, both Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Tarfon, they argued in which case? Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Tarfon argued in case of when you're a thief or you're a person who should have known better, and now they claim, sure, you owe us. And he says, I don't know. That case does not appear in our Mishnah. That's why our Mishnah is very nice, diplomatic. The Mishnah is like Switzerland, neutral. The Mishnah very smartly avoided, Mechavurus and I made even further cheshbonis, which I'm not telling you, the Mishnah elegantly avoids all cases, Machlokas, Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Tarfon, which is this. Now, what's the other case? What would be Bedine Odom? Bedine Odom, Beishema Veshema, as we just said now, you're potter, even if you're Rabi Akiva. Right? That's what you said now. Bedine Odom, not Bidei Shemaim. If everyone is the one big maybe over here, maybe, and the other one says, yeah, I don't know who to, and they don't know who to. Bedine Shemaim, Bedine Odom, you're potter, and Chinami, but the Mishnah didn't speak about Bedine Odom. Mishnah spoke about Bedine Shemaim, and you're chayev. Okay. Give me one more case till the 2 dots. We'll really then have a complete picture, and then there will be a little bit of South Korean time. Omer le Ravina Ravashi. I mean that they learn Gemara. Omer le Ravina le Rav Ashi. One more point regarding Rove. Said Ravina to Ravashi, the 2 people who concluded the Gemara. Umi Omer Rova. Did Rove really say Kol b'shtei krichos sabel lemeidak? What did I just tell you? This is when he should have known better, right? That's why he's chayiv b'dinei shomayim, l'kul alma, right? Should have known better. He's chayiv b'dinei shomayim, and lefi Rabi Akiva also b'dinei odom. Very nice. Is that so? Are you sure that Rove actually said that? That if the person was given something in a way that was properly deposited by him, and then he got mixed up, he really has to fork out from his own money? B'dinei shomayim, Rabi Tarfon. Rabi Akiva? Yeah, is that so? Look at the following case, and it seems to be not like that. Rova versus Rove. Bad news. Rama Rove, the Tamer of Popper, some say Rav Popper said it. Hakol Moedim, everyone agrees, meaning Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Tarfon, both agree. It's in B'choros. B'shnaim shefkidu etzel roya. 2 people deposited their sheep by the roya. Right, this morning before coming to the shiur, where did you leave your sheep? By the shepherd, of course. So now 2 people, they were mafkid by the shepherd. Now, you know what happened? One of them was mafkid 1 sheep, and the other one 2 sheep. Now, you have to be, I don't know, use bad words, you have to be very, very, very challenged, not to differentiate between 1 sheep and 2 sheep. Says Rashi, when we talk about money in an envelope, that can happen a lot, One envelope contains 100, one envelope 200, the guy was busy, his fault, their fault, it can get mixed up, fine. But 2 sheep, yeah, that even if they were not exactly announcing that is Kohen, that is Levi. You see, Kohen came with 1 sheep, and Levi came with 2 sheep. That's obviously it's your fault if you got mixed up, and he did. 1 minute at the end of the sheep sitting day, at the end of the baby sheep sitting day, they came home from working in high tech or learning in Kollel. One of them says, "Give me the 2 shepsalach," and the other one says, "Give me the 2 shepsalach." Who's the one who gave the 2 shepsalach? We don't know. Who's the one who came to the Ganenet to 2 shepsalach? They both say, and yet that should be obviously his fault. That's equivalent to giving closed envelopes, because sheep are very, evident who's the one and who's the 2. 1 minute. And yet it says, Shemaniach roy b'neim u'mistalik. And yet the roya can tell them, or with the whole legal process, I'm out of it. Even Rabbi Akiva would agree. Even Bedinei Odom, I think, that what the roya says, it's not my problem. You take 1 sheep, and the 3rd sheep will stay by me until Beis Din decides. Yeah, and I'm out of the picture. I mean, not that I can just run away completely. Yeah, the 3rd sheep will stay here in the gun, and under the custody of Beis Din until you figure out between you until bring Eidim. No, so that's bad news, right? Because you see, even though it says a Christ and he should have known better, yet even Rabbi Akiva agrees that he can just say, I'm out of the picture. Why? Answers the Gemara, Omer lei, no. Ever happened to you when you were young? You had kids in Gan. What happens? They placed it in the shepherd, in the herd, in the flock, when he was having his coffee in the coffee room. In other words, it was deposited without him seeing it, right? And Tosfos points out, the Tosfos over here says in the bottom, there's a difference between seeing and knowing. Tosfos says, in other words, even if he knew about it, but he didn't see, so then it's not his fault. In other words, they both ran to the train. like mothers who put the kids in the gun, right? They both run to work, they run to things, right? One of them deposited the one sheep, one of them the two sheep. Poor shepherd didn't know. He didn't see. So then Avada, how would he know? Is he a prophet? Or even the Shah, that's mine, that's mine. He doesn't see in front of his eyes, this is Reuven's ones, and this is Shimon's two. And therefore, there, even Rabi Akiva would agree, of course, that it's really, really not his fault. When it's not his fault, even when it's not his fault, which is not in his chart, then even b'dinei shomayim, he doesn't have to pay extra for their shlemazalkeit. Same thing with money. If they came and that's a seifa, no, of course it's not toises. If you make a cheshbon, our Mishnah spoke the entire Mishnah b'dinei shomayim. What did we speak about at the end of the Mishnah? In case where they were at fault, they were depositing it in a clumsy, messy way. Even b'dinei shomayim, he doesn't have to give back more than a minute. Question time, and then for a few minutes. Weiter. If we have time, we'll see the Tosfos, we'll see. Now, now we are focusing on the last case of the Mishnah. What was the last case? Two people deposited in a way that was unclear. In other words, one gave 100, one 200. According to the Rambam, by the way, the Mamish gave it in one envelope. Rambam learns it. They all messed up the money together. They all mixed it up. Now they're saying, and they told him, they did tell him, but not in a way that was very discreet, that I am not trusting the other guy. Hey, 100, 200, all will be well. They're Israeli, smoch, all will be good. And then what happened? One is claiming 200, the other one 200, right? And now, what do we say? It's not his fault. Even b'dinei shomayim, everyone agrees, Rabi Tarfon, Rabi Akiva, that if it's actually not in this chart, it's not in this chart. When he should have not known better, completely exempt, doesn't have to give anything. However, there's a machlokes Tanakam and Rabbi Yosi. Tanakam says, Rabbi, I, the shomer, am not giving anything for myself, no shvua, it's not my fault. You can be nishma from today till tomorrow, it's not my fault. You guys are messing up. And one of you is a liar, by the way, yeah, sorry. And therefore what? He'll give 100 to Reuven, 100 to Shimon, the third 100, what? Stay until you kids decide to behave yourselves. Yeah. However, says Rabbi Yosi, no. Says Rabbi Yosi, I want to give what's called in very old Hebrew, onesh kollektivi. Not onesh kollektivi, you have to guess what that means. It's very hard to understand. What's onesh kollektivi? Collective punishment. Onesh kollektivi. Yeah, that's what he said in Hebrew. We give a collective punishment over here, and we say, no, not even one dime will go back to anybody until Mr. Ramai will be pressurized to admit, because we want the Ramai to lose big time. The good guy's also losing. Collective, we're North Korea. Yeah, and therefore what? Now, says Rabbi Yosi, I want the Ramai to lose and be pressurized to behave himself from Tamat Clean and admit. And up until then, nothing will be given to anybody. And of course, it will stay until the guy decides to come clean. So, and then we had the very, very, very last case, which Rav Gitzkin over there was Ma'ira. What about two Kalim? Let's say it's not 100 and 200, which are very easy to break. Let's say one of them had a vase of 100 shekel. The other one had a vase that he deposited of 1,000 shekels. I think that's a bit more. And they both argued and both say the 1,000 shekel belongs to me. And then says Rashi, a very, very strange thing. What do? How do you give Lefi Tanakama? Lefi Rabbi Yosi, it's actually easy. You keep both vases by you until you children decide to behave yourselves. There's no tiyul. Nobody. Yeah, that's it. Okay, very nice. Tanakama says, no, what do? The 100, you give one of them, the small one. The big one of 1,000, you break it into two. You break it into two in a way that it's still worth money. It's still worth 100. I guess you take a very professional saw, an electric one, and you cut it very nicely in the middle of the vase or something like that. It's still worth something. And that value, which I hope is worth 100, you give the other guy. Unbelievable, but that's what Rashi says. Says the Gemara. The question of the Gemara is the tzricha. Why does the Mishnah have to provide me with two examples? One example of cash and one example of real keli. That's easy to cut, right? One example of two kelim, expensive and cheap. Yeah. Which is the more expensive one nowadays? The chat pami. Okay, so more expensive than the glass one. Why do we have to use both examples of cash and also kelim? It's the same concept again and again. Both cases, Tanakama say you give the minimum to both, and the third you keep by you. Rabbi Yossi says punishment for all and justice for all. Says Rabbi Yossi. Why do you repeat the same thing twice? Answers the Gemara. Had you only told me the first case of kesef money or geld cash, which is easy to break, 200 to 100, yeah. Be'ahi kamri rabbanon, their rabbanon say that you give each one 100, mishum delay kapseda, because really nobody's losing anything because nobody's breaking anything. Nothing is broken. One gave one note of 100, one gave one note of 200. Very good. You give 100, 100. Aval bahad the ikapseda the godol. But when you actually have to break the bigger one, you actually have to break the bigger kli, and that's a loss. In other words, even though the broken kli will be worth 100, but you're still causing somebody to lose the original kli, right? A mamodel Rabbi Yossi. Maybe in that case they would agree to Rabbi Yossi, although not from his reason. Rabbi Yossi says, keep all the kelim by you, I want to punish everyone. Maybe Rabbanon, through the back door, would agree to Rabbi Yossi in the case of kelim, because we don't want to break the kelim. It's crazy to break a dish, to break a kli while they're getting engaged. Yeah, it's a loss at the end of the day. That's what I would have said. They eat malbeho. So why don't you only mention the second case of the kelim, and it's a kol shekain for the cash, which nobody's losing anything by getting 100, 100, and the third note is lying very nicely in the envelope. What's the chiddush? Says the Gemara, beho, I would have said the other way around. Behakam Rabbi Yossi. Maybe I would say like this. In the case of the dish, then says Rabbi Yossi, no, don't break the kelim, don't break it. Like Solomon's judgment, mishpat shloina, don't cut him, don't break the kli. Behakam Rabbi Yossi, says Rabbi Yossi, don't touch the kelim and leave them by the shomer, don't give to anybody. Aval behach ema vadul rabbanon. But maybe when it comes to cash, when nobody's losing, you can get 100, you can get 100, and the 100 stays as a nice, crispy note is okay. Maybe then Rabbi Yossi agrees. Tzricha. That's all we had to mention, both to tell me no, that the machlokes between Rabbi Yossi and Chachamim is across the board, whether there is a loss of a kli or there is no loss, such as by money. That's not the point. We know the real reason Rabbi Yossi is what? He wants everybody to lose always, and Chachamim never want nobody to lose always, never. Frag the Gemara, but that would be a very funny havamina. The time of Rabbi Yossi, why would you have such a funny havamina to think that the reason why Rabbi Yossi says keep all the kelim, don't touch, don't break, don't give anybody, because by kelim the only way to give each one a fair share is by breaking one kli. Rabbi Yossi is against breaking the kelim. How can you say that? That's a funny havamina, because the Mishnah said outright, how can you have a havamina against words of the Mishnah? The Mishnah said, not Rabbi XYZ. The Mishnah said what? That mahif sidaramai. So of course we know by the actual wording of the Mishnah giving a reason that Rabbi Yossi would, through fire and water, would always say to keep all the kelim and all the cash or all the whatever you have, all the socks and shoes. You always keep it by the shomer in order to create loss for the Ramai. So why would that be a havamina like that? Ella must be no tarvayu lerabonon itzrich. Really, the two cases are mentioned within Rabbanon. Forget about Rabbi Yossi now. Not that he's wrong, but even if we focus on Rabbanon, in Rabbanon we need to have both reasons mentioned. Now, because Rabbanon say like this. Rabbanon, once we said in the Reisha that when you have money, what do you do with the money? 100 him, 100 him, 100 stays by the shomer, and that's very elegant. 3 nice notes. Not the blue notes, the other notes, the other 100 notes. Yeah. Now what? Very nice. Now comes the second case and tells me, wait. What would be by Kalim? By Kalim, maybe Rabbanon, not because of Rabbi Yossi. Maybe by Kalim Rabbanon, if it requires to break a kli, maybe then Rabbanon would say that's our limit. No. We're not going to break it. Why? Because give one kli to him. No, can't break a kli. That's a terrible loss. The kli of 1,000 is going to be worth now 100, and therefore we say no. We say havamina would be that in that case Rabbanon would agree to keep both kelim by the shomer to avoid the breakage. Hamashmala, no. Rabbanon are so stark of that the good guy should not lose. They are the opposite of a collective punishment. The Chachamim are the ones who will have the side with a child that pipes from an animal class, but it wasn't my fault. Why should we all miss on the teal because Joey threw the paper plane? Yeah. In other words, Rabban say, why should the good guy lose? And they're so strong into the good guy not losing, so they say, yeah, somebody has to. The value of the kli will diminish by breaking, but at the end of the day, each one will get 100. He'll get 100 original kli. The other guy will get 100 broken kli that's still worth 100, and the third one the shomer would keep. That's what we say. By the way, why do you have to break the kli? Why can't you sell it? The Rambam says, I think the Rambam or other Rishonim, it was at the end of the Seder, I didn't get to look at it, but Lamaisa, you could also sell the kli. You can sell the kli. Oh, but selling the kli is also devaluing. Because actually we started in one of the Rishonim, selling the kli also is not always the original value, because the person really wants his original kli has sentimental value. Yeah, the kli that says Mazel Tov in your 15th anniversary of your PhD of whatever. Yeah, he wants that kli and not something that was right, that was sold and just the cash. So the mice, it's also called a loss if you sell it. It's not really the original thing. No. I'm suggesting why not to sell, right? Because selling is also lemaisa mechavus, and I came to conclusion. The choyer you offer it on sale. Yeah, according to Rabbanon, you do say nachon. You nemaskon again. The fear Rabbanon, you do give each one the original value. I would say first of all, try and sell the kli, and make. Let's say the kli is worth what 200. One kli worth 100. Give it. The other kli that's worth 200. That's the bottom of contention. Sell it. 100 cash, keep by the thing. The other one, give him 100 shekel cash, right? Now, if that doesn't work, maybe you break the kli, or maybe he prefers having half of his original kli than having cash. That could also be true. Maybe that's why breaking is maybe better than selling. That comes to my mind just not the second. Sometimes maybe he wants to have half of his original kli with Mazel Tov and your PhD, rather than having cash and the kli completely sold. That's an idea that came to my mind the second. That could also be. At the end of the day, Chachamim say you don't keep it by him. You either break or you sell and give half. Yes. Question time. The shiur is over. Atzlocha Rabba, Lid Nishmas, Matis Apple's mother.